So let's go way back. 2001, you guys had a $300 million market cap when you launched, and then your stock fell down to like 7 cents.
Yeah, that was a $2 million market cap.
So 2 million, so 300 down to 2 million.
Yeah, so we went from $8 a share down to 7 cents a share.
Why do you not just give up at that point? Like losing that kind of money, or do you just, it's product focused, it'll come through?
No, so and that's why if I can jump back to the couch.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't told this story too much publicly. I don't know if I ever have, but so when I was faced with the couch, actually I lived at home. My parents were about an hour away from New York City. And I was commuting in from Long Island, and my parents even gave me a credit card because I didn't have any money.
And you couldn't take out any more credit cards, I bet.
So like my credit history was wiped out. And so, and they just gave me, my mom was like, you need to eat, so here's a card. And I come from a middle class family, so it's like every penny counts. So they're like, so it's okay. So I was commuting in, and I was depressed. So like, as an entrepreneur, if you lose something, and especially I was young, I was 27 years old, I thought, I don't know what's wrong with me. And I had some sense that I did a lot of things wrong. Mm-hmm. So some entrepreneurs just brush things off and move on, and like, I think if you're in a low point, you need to take time to think about why.
Is this the low point when you essentially went down to 7 cents?
No, this is
This is during the hustle.
This is when I left the kiosk business.
Okay.
And decided to get into the web.
Okay.
And it seemed I made that switch very quickly.
Yep.
But when I let go of the kiosk business, think about it. My credit cards were taken away.
Yep.
Like the credit card was calling me and being like, "We're going to wipe your credit rate." I had to go like I had nothing.
Yep.
And even though the web was nothing at then, the internet was nothing. But I thought I'm going to try this thing. Because I didn't want to quit. Mm-hmm. Because I thought if I quit, I'm going to be a failure. And my mark is I lost a company. So interesting enough, at that time a friend of mine said, you're kind of like down, because I was just not. I was down. Yeah. And I went and saw this psychiatrist, this guy Frank Morio in New York City, and Frank worked with me for and he said, look, tell me your story, for free. I'll just listen to you because you don't have any money. Yeah. So for like 4 weeks he listened to my story, and he said, one day, I got it. You don't have to tell me anymore. I was like, good, I'm ready to.
He's like a coach, like a business coach?
Yeah, he's a psychologist.
Okay.
But he was a coach. And so he says, I said, well, what's the prognosis? He goes, what's the prognosis? He goes, you're fucked.
That was his answer. How many weeks were you talking to this guy?
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
I told him the whole history of my family life, my business life. You just go all the way back and tell me everything you remember. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to explain something to you and see if you can understand. He goes, imagine when you were born, you were given a set of glasses. And so, but they're blurry. They're the wrong prescription. Okay. But all through life, you think you're seeing the world clear, but it's blurry. Okay. So when you're making decisions and you're starting to interpret things in your life, you don't see them clear.
Because you're looking from a blurry. Yeah.
So I talked about some people I hired, employees in the first company. Why did I hire them? Mm-hmm. Right? I surrounded myself with certain people, even lawyers and accountants I had weren't good. Like, why did I do all that? So he said, look, I'll help you take those glasses off, and then I'll help you put a pair of glasses on that'll give you clarity for your vision. Mm-hmm. Because he said, you have a big vision, I can tell. I always wanted to go public since I was 13 years old.
Interesting.
I still have the book. I took a book out of a library, and
you were like, that.
I said, that's like the ultimate thing.
What was the book? How to Go Public?
Yeah, it was like How to Go Public. And I remember it was this book, and I never returned it, but I still have it.
Do you really?
Yeah, because I always thought it's like the Olympics of business. Like that's the best of the best. So he said, you're never going to make it. And he said, you got a glimpse of your future today, which is great, and you're young. Yep. But imagine you lose 2-3 more companies, and you'll end up with a heart attack somewhere, and all these things. Maybe you'll get this feeling many times. Yes. So I said, okay. So he said, look, if you want to work with me, I'm going to tell you to do things. I'm going to ask you to do things you're not going to want to do, and if you don't do them, I won't work with you because I don't want to work with losers. Yep. And so it's his way or the highway. He said, because I don't have time and you have no money. Yep. I got a lot of people I work with. Yep. And so I said, okay. So he said, first thing I want to do is go home and give your mom back that credit card and leave the house. Okay. I said, but I don't have an apartment. He says, but you have that little office you told me about. Yeah. I said, he goes, sleep there. So I remember I went home. I gave the credit card to my mom. I said, I gotta.
This guy told me to do it.
I went and I picked up a pillow and a comforter. It was November. I remember it was cold.
In New York.
It was November in New York.
Yeah.
In this place, I subletted space of a guy who made T-shirts.
Yeah.
In a crappy loft in Tribeca, and they would like at night the heat went off.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I remember thinking, man, I'm at a low point.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go from here, and no one's gonna help me. I got to help myself, and I'm gonna have to work it one step at a time. And so if I fast forward to 7 cents a share, if I fast forward to the pivots we made in the business, I go back there.
Okay.
In two ways. One is I don't want to ever go back to the couch.
Yep.
So if I'm in a point where I'm in a low point or point we need to pivot or do something, I gotta be open to new things.
Okay.
And the second thing is I realized that, especially people always ask, how did you make it through the dot-com implosion?
Yep.
We fired 140 out of 180 people.
Yeah.
We did a lot of radical things in 1 year because I was so afraid of having that experience again of going back to the couch.
So going back to the T-shirt factory essentially and sleeping.
And if God didn't give me, whatever you believe God is, but we all have our own personal sense of God, if God did not give me that terrible situation at the time, I think during the dot-com, a lot of people never experienced loss like I did.
Yeah.
So what happened was they thought, it will get better. I'll raise more money. I just had the fear of God that I was going to lose a second company. Mm-hmm. All the work, I'd lose another one, and I couldn't face it. So in my mind, I thought we'd go down to 2 employees to get this thing through, but I'm not going to lose a second company.
So it's like die trying, essentially.
You die trying.
Yeah.
So I think for most entrepreneurs, the thing is there's a wall that's been put up that you have to keep scaling, and that wall gets bigger as you get more successful. But that wall is there for a reason. Being an entrepreneur is not for everybody. Everybody wants to do it, maybe.
Yeah.
And they read about it, and they read books.
Looks fun.
And it looks like you make a lot of money, and you can have a lot of wealth. But those walls, they challenge you personally, and it's not for everybody. But if you work through it, you'll make it. I've never seen anyone fail who doesn't work through it.
Yeah. You just got to keep moving forward.
You can't quit. I would say you just can't quit. When you quit, you called it.
And you gave that guy some stock too, right?
Yeah. So after I went public, then because I couldn't pay him during the time, so I remember I called him up before I was going public and said, Frank, I'm going public. He says, yeah, I was in the newspaper at the time. He said, yeah, I've been watching you.
He's just waiting for that call.
Because he only worked with me for 2 years.
Okay.
And after 2 years, he said, you're good to go. You don't need me anymore. Just go on. And so so I was able to pay him in some stock. And
he's still a psychologist.
Yeah, it's funny.
He wrote a book, right?
Yeah, he wrote a book. He wrote this wonderful book that he put out about, I think, 7 or 8 years ago, about some of the stories of people he's coached.
Were you in that? Now people are going to look. Okay,
Tell them to read the book.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you, he opens up the book with a woman named Connie, who is he works with people at the end of their life.
Okay.
And cancer patients and stuff. And she never fulfilled her dreams. She never got married. She had this life. She lived with her mom. She just felt like now it's over. And he helped coach her through her death, to take control of her death. And the moral in that is, like, it's really sad that the only time you take control of yourself is at the end of life.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Yeah.
So that's his opener of the book.
Interesting.
Yeah. He doesn't really work with many people anymore, but he's kind of like, but he does a lot of cool stuff. The interesting thing he told me too was, I also was going to a shelter, and I'd go and work in a homeless shelter, and I'd sleep in there.
I thought you were in a shelter. I was like, man, it got worse even for you.
No, but he's I'd go work in a homeless shelter and sleep there 1 day a week or stuff, and like once a month I'd go at St. Bart's Church on Park Avenue, and the reason he said is that your life's great.
Yeah. Even if it's 7 cents a share. Whatever.
No, it wasn't. This is when I was on the couch sleeping on the couch.
Okay.
So no,
still, it's great.
So he said, you're on a couch. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Go to a homeless shelter and start to experience. You'll see other people in the world and listen to their stories.
Yep.
And you'll see you'll be okay. And then you can help. And you should help people even if you're on a couch.
Yep.
You should be in service of people, because people need your help regardless.
Yeah.
So don't feel sorry for yourself.
That's very like Tony Robbins. Give your last dollar. It always will be returned somehow.
Yeah. You can't. You have to be in service of others, if you're going to be a leader.
Yep.
That's the number one rule. You have to be in service of people to be a leader.